Welcome to Empowered Ease, the podcast where we challenge the patriarchy by inspiring women to take ownership of their health, mind, body, and soul. My name is Jen Olinger. I'm your host. I'm a holistic coach, a critical care nurse, and founder of the Moonflower Collective. Each episode, you'll hear from incredible women, healers, health practitioners, coaches, nurses, and pioneers making a difference. Together, we'll delve into their personal stories, the inspiration behind their work, and how women heal and thrive in community. Discover how by uniting our strengths and sharing our journeys, we transform not only ourselves, but the future of health and wellness. So tune in, be inspired, and empower yourself alongside our vibrant community of women. This is Empowered Ease. Let's embark on this journey of communal healing together. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Empowered Ease. I'm Jen Olinger, and today we have a truly inspiring guest whose life journey and professional achievements embody exactly what this podcast is all about: empowerment, transformation, and finding harmony in all of life's transitions. Joining us is Barbara Anderson, an extraordinary registered nurse with over 40 years of diverse experience in healthcare. Barbara holds both bachelor's and master's degrees in management and leadership. She's a certified executive and life coach with a deeply rooted understanding of healthcare leadership and the challenges faced by healthcare workers. In the last decade, Barbara has expanded her reach, becoming a traveling healthcare consultant. She has effectively guided physicians and nurses towards clinical documentation excellence and performance improvements while gaining a unique perspective of the current challenges facing the healthcare field. Barbara is not only professionally accomplished, but personally, she has embarked on a journey of exploring emotion, energy, and holistic approaches to life and health. This led her to establishing Simply Harmony Coaching, a business dedicated to helping healthcare professionals and particularly women discover joy and meaning in their lives. Barbara's vision as a coach is to empower individuals with a focus on life transitions. She attributes much of her own growth to maintaining a curious and open mindset through her own transitions and challenges like navigating divorce while raising two children. Today, she continues to provide that sacred space for transformation, helping others find their own answers and achieve a balanced life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. So, without further ado, let's dive into a conversation with Barbara Anderson and learn more about her journey and insights. Welcome to Empowered Ease, Barbara. How are you?
Great. Thanks, Jen. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk with you.
Yeah, I'm way excited. It sounds like you've been in healthcare a long time. So I'm really excited to hear about that. I'm loving your coaching program and the focus on transitions. So I gave like a pretty good little intro there, but so let's hear from your perspective, kind of what you're up to and what you're doing.
Well, as you said, after a lot of experience in nursing roles, but I was a pivot person long before that was popular, and I've had wonderful different experiences in nursing. And the last 10 years was as a healthcare consultant. So I was working with physicians and nurses across the country and even a little stint in Canada um, with physicians and nurses around documentation. But I could see and hear, the issues are all the same. The healthcare system is broken, as we know, and people are really challenged. And it's especially falling on nurses and all healthcare workers, really holding things up while hopefully we figure out our health system and take it to a better place. But with that, I realized that what I wanted to do was coaching, because I remembered when I was in home care in the first start of my career, And I love being in people's homes, working with them around their healthcare and well-being. And it was taking the whole picture into consideration, their body, mind, spirit, family members, their issues, their determinants of health before that was a popular term. And I realized I wanted to get back into that, where kind of working one-on-one in a sacred space, allowing them to talk and vent and work through. And what I really figured out is, especially through my career too, is people really know their own answers, but they a lot of times don't have a space to talk it through, or focus on some of the right tools, or how to get there in an easier way. And coaching does help with that. And so and when I got training as an executive and personal coach, I just felt like I was home, because it's just right up my alley. So, and we had talked about this, Jen, that we do a lot of coaching in nursing in general, and so really it's been a long career of working with people in that way, and just having those wonderful, heartfelt connections. And with that, people learn and grow and evolve, and are empowered. And that's the beauty of coaching, and being able to see those moments when the light goes on in a person's head. And it doesn't always happen in the first session. It might be over several sessions, but there also might be several times when light bulbs go off. And it's just so satisfying to see that someone's life can be improved with that.
Yeah, I find a lot of my clients have light bulbs early on, and then we spend a lot of the time like trying to maintain that because, like are trying to figure out how to keep that up. So I love that. Now you said something that I'd never heard before, but a pivot person. What do you mean by a pivot person?
There's a lot of talk in nursing, especially on LinkedIn. I see a lot about pivoting from the bedside for nurses, because a lot of times in the nursing role, you feel that you're not going to be a nurse, you're going to lose skills. The expectation would be that you stay at the bedside so you don't lose your skills, so that you have a job, that, that sort of thing. But a lot of nurses feel stuck there. And what I found, there's so many opportunities in nursing, and to be able to explore them and be open to that. And, we may talk a little bit about this down the line, but I really believe in a growth mindset, and that's being curious and being open
Mm-hmm.
to learning and growing, because that's what feeds us, I believe. And that definitely happens when you pivot roles. And keep I kept looking for what worked better for me. And sometimes it worked, for a couple of years, and then I felt like I needed to move on. And for me, it was interesting because through the different pivots, I found that I was starting to take roles in leadership where there was change expected. They were going to have a new computer system, or there was a change in ownership, and there needed to be some shifts. And so I would take those kind of roles. And so I would be cleaning up things for a couple years, or starting new things for a couple years. And once they got into this balance place, I kind of got a little bored. So I was always looking for these new challenges. And that's where finally I ended up in consulting, where I could, do those pivotal roles for one company kind of thing. And then was so dedicated to do that. At one time, I was even traveling from the Pacific Northwest to New York City every week. And that happened for a year. And now that about killed me. I mean, it's really hard to do your self-care and take care of your own things in that way. But I found too that you find more about a place by kind of living there. And so I really got into what New York City was all about and understand it better. And so that was a benefit as well, to get to know the people and the place in a better way.
Mm-hmm. So do you live in the Pacific Northwest now?
I do.
Where do you live?
In the Seattle area.
The Seattle area. Now, do you do your coaching virtually for the most
I
part?
do.
Do virtually.
I do.
Okay. And I saw you specify in mainly healthcare workers and women, healthcare women in healthcare. And I also saw this maybe in leadership. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. And I'm really open to anyone, because it's really all, we have the same needs and the same tools that we can use. So it really is the same. But and my niche really is nursing and healthcare workers, and especially around burnout. A lot of times it's better, if you, before you're burned out, to start getting some support and some tools for how to work to avoid that, but sometimes you're in it and you're stuck. And that's where coaching can really help and support. And, that's where I can step in.
Yeah, I love that. I think I wish it was more preventative in healthcare, but the reality is most people are like, hip deep in it. I've been through it several times before we acknowledge as a nurse myself that I'm in burnout. So I love that. And I don't think I would have pivoted away from the bedside, but I definitely can relate with like getting bored and pivoting. Like I pivoted like every 2 years to like a different specialty. I always stayed in critical care, but it was like a different critical care specialty. And then at some point I floated to all critical care specialties. And now I specialize in burnout too after burning out so bad and going back and doing the job a totally different way with a totally different mindset. I still found like this is not doing what it used to do for me anymore. So I accepted my first job in leadership, which I start next week, which I'm hopeful and excited about, but also a little nervous that it's going to be disappointing and what, in the way that it's part of the healthcare system. So, do you have any advice for me as someone like going into leadership and like it's a very big hospital, the biggest hospital system in the area. So, like very corporate, big healthcare system.
Well, congratulations first off.
Thanks.
And yeah, I think just be curious and stay open-minded. And another thing is, there really is such a thing as imposter syndrome, and you feel like when you're going into something new, and I think this is especially true for nurses, especially ICU nurses, you always have known exactly what you needed to do. You're coming from a place where you're very skilled, very sharp. You can almost do it in your sleep. Stepping into a place where it's new and it's different, and there are things that you'll be learning and that sort of thing. But give yourself a break. Be really self-compassionate that you can do this. You have the skills needed, or they wouldn't have chosen you. And just take it day by day by day. And before you know it, a lot of these things that were new become older and more, you are more skilled in them, and you're bringing your uniqueness of all these different experiences you've had and who you are, Jen, to the table. So watch out, here you come. Just
Right.
yeah, and listen, hear everything. Use your nursing skills around, what's really happening here, what is the root cause of this, and that sort of thing, to try to understand it. And I've navigated the corporate world in a lot of roles, and it can be really difficult sometimes. But look for people that support you. Look for mentors that you can kind of follow their path, how they've succeeded, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Mentorship was really great.
Yeah, that's a great advice. That's really great advice. Um, so when you say you work with mainly women in healthcare, do you say there's like a theme that women are coming to you to work with you at a certain point in their life, or is it mainly burnout, or what are the kind of people that you're working with? What do you see most commonly?
Yeah, well, I would say for women, and this is for myself also in my growth and journey, is around we want to do it all, and so we're caregivers, and we're especially nurses around this, but we take care of everybody else. We're empathetic, we're compassionate, and don't always look at ourselves and what we need to be able to support that. So we forget that we have to take care of ourselves, because if we have nothing to give, we're not going to be that effective working with others and trying to accomplish our goals, because we're trying to hold down a job, we often have family responsibilities, might even be taking care of parents at this point. I see kind of different ages, but it's mostly midlife, I would say. um, when you start asking those questions more, like, what about me, and what else can I do to have a more joyful life, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I could see that for sure. I mean, there's so much that happens at this age, like hormonally, and then like just your values are shifting, and as givers, that gets hard at this age too, with like the hormones at play. So is there something specifically in your life that led you on a personal level to get more interested in like the more holistic aspect of, like, I saw I think on your website it was talking about like the mind body connection and taking a more holistic approach. So I'm just wondering what inspired you to go that route from being in healthcare for 40 years.
Sure, sure. And I would say I would also go back a minute and just add that I do work with men as well, and
Mhm.
because they're also kind of waking up at different times in their lives, to try to find more empowerment themselves. And we all
Mhm.
have the masculine, feminine energy in us, and sometimes, most of the time, we're out of balance in those, whether we're female or male. So working through that, can be very similar for men. They have different issues, but also can work with them. What really happened for me, and this happens a lot for women, is, a change in my situation, or where it all kind of came to a head when I went through a divorce. I realized that I had a couple small children, and I wasn't getting what I needed as far as support, and something had to give, and that had to be it.
Mhm.
And so then going through that situation, the grieving of it, that you really don't have time for, because get up and go, you have to take care of your family, and trying to figure out who I was after I'd been guided into this box of marriage, really. And it wasn't the path that I wanted at that time, at least with this person. And it was really challenging, because it was against my religion to get a divorce. Family didn't
Mhm.
really support that. I also was living in Hawaii at the time, and I think that led, which is a beautiful place, wonderful time in my life, actually, being so close to nature and such beauty, and all of that. But there's a very spiritual component to Hawaii too, and I think that also affected me. And so there
Mhm.
was a lot of availability of spiritual paths to explore, which I did. Took intuition classes,
Ooh.
and found that, as women and as nurses, we can be very intuitive and not realize it. We listen to our gut feelings a lot, but that we all have this ability and we can develop it. And so I've kind of spent my life continuing to develop that intuition, and it helps me a lot in my work and also in my self-care, because I'm more in tune to what it is I need. On what level? Is this a body thing, a mind thing, a spirit thing? Maybe it's all of it. Being more attuned to that. And so, the intuition development is just crucial. And I see it even more in this day and age, where there's so much outside noise. We really need to learn more and more about going inside, and what is our guidance telling us, because the outside world is kind of a mess at the moment. And it's also important that we keep evolving ourselves, because that's the best gift we can give to the world. I mean, we're here on the planet, and while we're here, what can we do to continue evolving, continue to grow, and then, help this world, that we're in. So in spite of all the noise, continuing to grow ourselves. The other thing I really got interested in was energy. It kind of goes along with the intuition too, and about what's happening with your body and that sort of thing, and energy healing, and working with crystals, and different modalities, like tapping. I don't know if you're
Mm.
familiar with that.
Mhm.
There are so many tools. That's what I've discovered is in my journey, lots and lots of tools. And what I like to do in working with a client is, if whatever they're open to around that, is, trying different things that might resonate with them, because it can get overwhelming that there's so much out there. But you can find the few things that really support you, that really help you to learn and grow and develop, and make life easier.
I love that you said that. I love learning about intuition. I read this book. I think I have it in here. What's it called? Yeah, I think it's called Blink. Have you heard of that?
That's a good. I haven't read it yet, but that is a good one.
I loved it because there's just times as a nurse when you can walk, if you after you've been doing it a while, where you can walk in a room and know something's off, but you cannot always identify what it is. And when I read that book, it was just talking about how like there's this whole part of your brain that is like processing all this information around you on a subconscious level, that it's not like woo woo. It is, you're picking up on these subtle cues that you don't even know you're picking up on. And you have like this supercomputer, and how like how accurate intuition is. The book is so good because it tells you there's some times where you shouldn't trust that. There's times where it can get crossed. But for the most part, and I love this because this is a lot of what coaching is about too, right? Like a lot
Mhm.
of us know what we
Yes.
should be doing, or we're afraid of acknowledging that thing we know. And it's a lot about like getting people comfortable enough to talk about that, to get there, to own what they already know. And so that, I don't know, it's just like learning about the science of it just is like so interesting to me. So I loved reading that on your website. I also loved reading about this concept of like the balanced masculine feminine energy. So tell me a little bit more about that.
We all have both energies within us, the part of us, and this is why, women can be leaders and men can be caregivers.
Caregivers.
Yeah, because we all have that ability within us. We just, you know, it's trying to sort out what have we been trained, and what's really ingrained in us around the genders. Because if we can find more of that balance within us, where at times we use our logic side, sometimes we use our creative side, but how can we integrate that in our body in a better way, in our mind, and soul even? So exploring that inside, and so it's both male and female in all of us, and supporting
I love
that.
that. Finding that balance. Now, so I have had a couple different nurses on my show, or on the podcast, and two specifically I'm thinking of that work a lot with healthcare workers. And both times we had conversations about how difficult sometimes it is to get nurses to take care of themselves. Like sometimes we're one of the hardest populations to get to like take action on our own healthcare. And I don't think this is true anymore, but back in the day, like nurses used to be about among the highest like smoking population because we're such like stressful jobs, yet we know we're pretty educated on the health effects of that at the time. So I'm just wondering what your experience or insight is into that.
Well, I agree with you. That's what I see as well. And I've known it for myself that, we're the last to take care of ourselves. But and in my coaching with folks, we talk about that, and I can see that clearly and quickly. And I try to really help them see it as well, so that just taking a few steps in their own care and taking their own time for themselves, like PTO, for instance, if someone has a family, they're never going to take time off for themselves. It's only to pick up the kids when they're sick, or, it's all for the family things. But what if, you arranged for a couple days that are just yours? And I think more and more people are doing that. I'm not sure about nurses. I still see nurses not recognizing that or feeling guilty about that. I think as women, that's something ingrained in us as well. We're caregivers, and so there's guilt involved. And I saw, even Michelle Obama recently spoke about how, once her kids were grown, and her husband was president, and not we're all not wives to the president, but she put a lot of her own things on hold. I'm sure she still took some vacations and that sort of thing, but the bottom line is she's still now at this point looking at, how to better take care of herself and how she wants to grow. And what if, we did that all the time? What if, your partner really recognized that you need to grow and you need this time as well as they do? And it would, I'm sure, be a much better partnership. But when we are, the nurses on the units and doing our job and have family and have all these responsibilities, we really have a hard time taking the time to even stop and look at ourselves and look at what's going on. That's why I see too, and I'm sure you do, self-reflection besides self-care is the other thing that we're not really good at.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking the time to stop and ask yourself questions and get closer to your emotions and what you're feeling, Journaling is a huge help for
Mhm.
that. But in our sessions, we do that too, just talking about it with someone and coming to some realizations how you're not really in tune with who you are and what you want. Because if someone asks you a question and you're not even able to answer it, what you want, that means you need some time to think about those things and figure that out because you'll just be on a hamster wheel unless you have some direction, in your life. The other piece of that too is knowing what your values are. What are your top priorities? Knowing your five top priorities and then always bumping every decision you make up against those priorities. So if family's a priority, great. If your job is a priority, but making self-care one of those might be a great move, but it's all very personal and it's all very customized in these discussions that we have. And the plan is very much what works for that person and where they want to go with it. But first, they got to figure out where they do want to go.
Yeah, I love there's another coach that's been on the podcast before that talks about like how many people that she meets, her name's Micah, that when she asks them what they want, like that is the hurdle for so many people. They haven't even stopped to ask themselves that question in a long time. And I
Mhm.
love also that you mentioned like the guilt that comes along with caretaking and obviously overlaps into nursing because I think that does play like a huge role. And also in burnout, that I feel like a lot of nurses are trying to, like, because a lot of units are understaffed. And I feel like a lot of nurses are picking up extra shifts and maybe not always um, in like a self-serving way, but in a way to like save their unit, which they're burning themselves out for a problem that they're not fixing too. So like that's one thing I always like to say on here, like it's not your job to fix the staffing issues
Right,
on your
right.
unit. Don't pick up extra shifts because you're in the long run, I think you're actually probably hurting yourself more than you're helping. But I see a lot of nurses picking up extra shifts because their units are short. I don't know about you.
Yes, and that's the thing is just saying no, being able to say no. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I noticed a lot of mention talk about like transitions. Are there any transitions that you specifically like? I know you talked about your divorce and I know some people are transitioning out of healthcare, but are there any transitions that you're working with people regularly on or?
No, I'd say it's a lot of different things. It might be they're looking for a new job, but again, sorting out what it is they're wanting this next step of theirs. Um, it might be now they're out of they've gotten their higher degree. Where do they go from here? Some business people who are taking a look at what their direction is going to be in that way. But it's we have so many different kinds of transitions
Mhm.
that it is varied. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like, okay. So do you have any advice for healthcare workers who might be feeling burnt out and yeah, looking for a little more support, feeling like they're in a transition and might need coaching? Give any advice for them on what they can do at home?
Sure. You know, a lot of this you can do yourself, but you can be helpful with another person being there to be your guide and your support. But to start with, it's the self-reflection idea, and just sitting with yourself, knowing that you want to understand yourself better, going with that intent. And so you ask yourself, a few questions, what is it I like about my life right now? What is it I don't like? If I could change one thing, what could I change? What would I want to change? And then visualization is another important key too, where you can imagine what your better life looks like. And you might get some insight on, okay, how do I get from here to there kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The other really important thing about nursing especially is that you are faced with life and death sometimes daily in your role, and the responsibility of life that a lot of people can go to other jobs and it's not a life or death situation. With nursing a lot of times it can be, and realizing those emotions that you push down when you go from room to room, not really dealing with the emotions that you felt with the client you had, the patient you had in the past room, you know? And so that's where journaling again on a long-term basis for nurses would be good because you know, at the end of the shift, just writing down some of those emotions you felt. Some people can't define emotions. We're not really trained, you know, on what the emotions are, how to label them. That's another thing I work on a lot of times with people is you know, what is that feeling you're feeling right now? And some people have a hard time naming it, but when we get down, well, oh, that's frustration. Then you're getting kind of to the root cause of things. So I encourage that for the journaling to really try to understand. So kind of keys around being resilient. Resilient is what we want to achieve, to be able to kind of be like a bamboo tree and flow with the tide and adapt with things. To be at that place, you want to be very self-aware, and to have that, you want to really pay attention to self-care, have self-compassion, which means, you know, that empathy that you're showing to others, show to yourself, treat yourself like your own best friend. And there's another one, mm, self-care, I said, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And oh, that's self-reflection. How can I forget? Self-compassion, self-reflection, and self-care. Those are the main like legs to the
Yeah,
stool of resilience. Yeah.
great. That's great advice. What else did I want to ask you? Oh, I know. So tell me a little bit about the kind of coaching that you do. I know you said you do some group coaching. Do you do one-on-one coaching?
I do. Uh-huh. And what a session like that might look like is, you know, mainly listening to someone's story, kind of where they're at right now and where they see at that moment that they'd like to go. And, you know, we kind of work through that. We set up a plan and some actionable steps to get there. But this can take a couple sessions. This can take different tools to be able to draw that out and get that understanding. But it starts there. And then it's really working with the client to understand what kind of actions would work for them in their own life and how to, you know, make some changes that they can start right away seeing, you know, are helpful to them. A lot of it is about, you know, just being able to talk and with a very comfortable, safe space, confidential space, so that they can really just let it out, talk about things they may not have thought about, and really, the bottom line is that people have all their own answers. They just need some guidance, perhaps, to pull those out. We all have our own answers within, really, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of group coaching do you do?
So on through Substack, we have a monthly session for the actual coaching session where we talk about tools and talk about people's goals and really focus in that way. And then the second session of the month is around kind of masterminding. So focusing on those goals that people are trying to reach and having the group really help support that. It is known that people really can gain a lot from, you know, hearing what other people's goals are, hearing how they're proceeding, and also supporting each other. And a lot of times, even after the sessions, they can be helping each other, you know, achieve goals. And it's really about having a safe community. I think in this day and age, you know, we talked about people really evolving, continuing their own evolution. And a lot of that can happen in community with community support, those connections with people that we really need so badly and we really do arise from. And so that's really an important piece of the group coaching. And then I also have and I also have this free feminine rising circle, and that's every month as well. And uh, it's another place where just community space is held and exploring the feminine side of things and how we want to rise in this time. And women are already doing it. They're each person coming already has, you know, what they're working on, but it just helps kind of expand the whole idea and helps the group grow even more exponentially than they would alone. So it's really exciting to see that and be in that space. So both of those
So is that
things.
open to the public or are those all part of your coaching program? Is the like feminine rising open to the public or yeah.
It is open to the public. Uh-huh.
Okay. If
Yes.
someone were interested in that, where would they find that group or more info on that?
Um, I have a flyer. It's out on LinkedIn on my profile
Okay.
page. That's where it is.
And I'll put a link to that in the show notes then to your LinkedIn profile in case people want to join that. Okay.
And I do want to add that for that Feminine Rising, another coach is joining me, and she's also a nurse, Angela Johnson, and she has this great, wonderful energy. She actually is in Greece right now with her family, living there temporarily, and so she brings kind of this whole different energy to the group, and that's really kind of fun. And she's a transformative coach as well.
Love that. Love that. I want to come to one and see what it's like.
Yeah, be
Barbara,
glad
you
to
have
have
like
you.
the most grounding energy, even just talking to you. I feel so calm and at peace.
Oh, thank you.
I like you should
That's
record meditations or something. I'm like, oh, I just find myself feeling so peaceful talking to you. I love it.
Oh, thank you. And I do a lot of work for that, so I really appreciate that feedback. I
Yeah.
do a lot of work to have my own calmness.
It's definitely working. I feel it like in my spine. I feel just like at ease hearing you talk. Like I don't know what it is, but I love it.
And my intention is that everyone who ever watches this will have the same feeling.
I think they will. I think they will. So I ask everyone this, Barbara, but what do you do for self-care like when things are out of control or things are getting really bad and you just need to like your go-to self-care thing? What is it?
Mhm. I have to say that, I certainly don't have the stressors that I've had at younger periods of my life. So, it doesn't compare to what a lot of you nurses are going through. So I'm able to have more of a calm life at this point. But certainly there's crazy stuff happening in the world, and I definitely tune out of news. I try to stay just a little bit aware, enough for safety reasons, but not getting entrenched in it. I know were times when I might have the TV cable news on for a while. No, don't do that anymore. Um, and really focusing more on my life and what I can do. And so there's a lot of internal things. I do journaling. I also meditate every day. I love affirmations. That's part of having a positive growth mindset is, trying to reframe your negative thoughts that come through your head. And I'm still, this lifetime, it'll take a lifetime, if not longer, to figure things out. For myself, I've been through a lot, I've done a lot, but we're always learning and growing. And so, um, I still, look at different spiritual practices, explore that. I love sacred sites, and I don't travel as much now, so even just watching on YouTube, it's like you're there. This virtual world is pretty effective too.
Cool.
Yeah, and visualizations, just yeah. Oh, nature's the other one. Get out in nature. Just
Mm.
standing outside on the grass is one thing, and hugging a tree. I mean, seriously, there's something to that.
Right. I know going outside, there's so much to that. Well,
Yeah,
beautiful. So if people are looking to find more information, I'm going to put that LinkedIn link on there. And then can they find you? You said you're on Substack.
I am. Yes. Uh-huh. We'll
You,
provide that link too.
okay,
Yeah.
we'll put that in the show notes too. And is there anything else that you want to leave us with, Barbara? It's been very informative and I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you, Jen. That's wonderful. Thanks. Well, I do have free newsletters.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
feel free to sign up for those in any one place. LinkedIn, I have them on my website and also on Substack. And,
What's your
I
website?
simplyharmonycoaching.com.
Simplyharmonycoaching.com. Okay.
Mhm. And you can email me at barbara.anderson at simplyharmonycoaching.com.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I would just say take care of yourself. I mean, if you show your self-worth, you're an example to other people to show theirs. And I think in this time when there's a lot of negativity against humanity itself, we can, in our own small ways, value our worth and value the worth of those around us. And that's pretty powerful. So do that
Awesome.
if you would.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thanks for spreading your message and for putting your good out in the world. I really appreciate it, Barbara. And I wish you all the luck. And hopefully, we'll have you on again in the future to hear what you're doing.
Thank you, Jen, and good luck with your job. Appreciate
Thank
hearing
you.
about that.
Thanks. Thank you for tuning in today to this episode of Empowered Ease. I hope you found inspiration and insight in today's conversation. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing or sharing the episode with someone you know who needs to hear an empowering story or would benefit from the empowering stories. You can also buy us a cup of coffee on our website, which goes a long way in editing the show and finding guests. For those of you that are looking for a little more and some support in reclaiming your energy and your joy, I invite you to explore my program called From Burnout to Blossoming, Reclaim Your Energy and Joy. It's a transformative journey that I walk you step by step through to help you rejuvenate and embrace your full potential and re-engage in the joy of life. So you can always visit my website, www.themoonflowercoachingcollective.com, and to learn more and sign up. And don't forget to join our vibrant community by subscribing to my newsletter. You'll gain access to a free supportive community and network of women tackling burnout. We regularly post and have conversations inside our private group. It's totally free. You'll also receive updates on the 2 free monthly workshops I do each month. I'm starting a chakra series currently, and we would love for you to join. Also, it'll help you stay in the loop with all the empowering initiatives that I'm doing at the Moonflower Collective and all the guests on the show, Empowered Ease. So, together we can nurture a space where women thrive. I hope you'll join us there. Until next time, continue to empower yourself and each other, and take care of yourselves, ladies.